Hi everyone and welcome. I think this reading's going to be pretty quick because it's so clear cut. So let's just get right to the point. This is straight up Mercury Retrograde energy, and I'm actually doing the reading and posting the reading during Mercury Retrograde. And so this probably applies to you in some way, shape, or form, even if it's not literally Mercury retrograde when you're listening, but there's a good chance that it is, even if it's not the same one that I'm going through currently. This is a timeless read, but probably finding you during a Mercury retrograde either way. And if not, what you're experiencing gives off that same energy. It feels like one to you for sure. So this could be about anything. It's not necessarily about one specific topic. In fact, for a lot of people, it's probably touching on multiple areas of life. But if not, it could be one area that's being really affected. But either way, something or multiple areas were ramping up in your life, like really feeling like they were taking off, and then slowed down, paused. You feel like you're walking through mud now, whereas it was the complete opposite energy not that long ago. I'm talking like days, weeks, tops. Yeah, the first card that came out was pause, and I knew right then that it might be related to Mercury retrograde, and because it's just been so heavy in my own field, my own life, that, you know, it was the first thing that came to mind. And then right after that came out have faith, break free, and surrender, with literally, can't make it up, slow down on the bottom of the deck as the overall energy. And so what came to me as these cards came out was obviously the pause is divine and meant to happen, aka Mercury retrograde, right? And then have faith, break free. What I channeled right there with those two basically together is that it's happening for you, not to you, right? And again, if you're here, if you're listening to this, then this is definitely, you know, hitting your birth chart in terms of, you know, astrology and the aspects. It's hitting your birth chart pretty hard. Or even if it's not Mercury retrograde, but you're going through this, it's still the same concept of it's happening for you, not to you. And just to surrender, you know, just go with it. Have faith that it's happening for you, and trust that coming out on the other end of it is going to be rewarding for whatever reason, whether you end up with more than you expected before the slowdown, or things end up better than you expected before the slowdown, or you're made aware of something that would have been a negative if you didn't slow down, right? All those possibilities. Obviously, it just depends who's listening, you know, for the details. So I'm not going to get into details, but that's the overall general energy. And then with this other deck, that's not technically an oracle deck, but I use it that way. Opposing energies came out basically. So you have sad and guilt, and then love and joy. So I feel like for a lot of us, we're going through the extremes of the negative emotions, sadness, guilt, and then flip-flopping to love and joy throughout this whole entire phase that we're being, you know, asked to pause and slow down and surrender. So So there's a lot of flip-flopping energy. And then also, I think for some of us, it's where going through the experience, there's a lot of negative emotions and energy with, sadness and guilt coming out. But then when all is said and done, love and joy ends up being, the outcome. So yeah, I'm not sure, you'll know where you fit into which camp, or maybe both. And just so you can see also, can't make this up, at the bottom of that deck, guilt came out. So just confirming what was already, on the table. Also, I read these cards with their suit and numbers, and I can apply it to tarot. And so the Four of Hearts, I read that as the Four of Cups. So that just confirms things more. And for me, that's someone holding something back from you, or vice versa, or a situation, right? I mean, that perfectly describes a situation that was ramped up and then is being held back. And then here, Jack of Hearts, I see as the Knight of Cups. So for a lot of you, this could be to do with a love offer. And again, that could be either way, like whether you are on the giving or receiving end of that. Queen of Diamonds, I see as the Queen of Swords. So, and it's interesting because it came out with the love on it, right? And there's other love cards in the deck that obviously aren't Queen of Diamonds or Queen of Swords. So it's interesting that that particular one came out, and I'm reading that as it's, it's this cold energy covering up the energy of love, or vice versa. But in this case, like, with this read, it seems more like there was a love, or there is a love that's being covered up by this icy, cold, quiet, maybe even cut off type energy. And then lastly, with the Joy card, that really matches. It's Ace of Hearts, which I read as, I don't know if you can see it, Ace of Hearts, which I read as Ace of Cups. So I feel like that is the actual energy. And also, depending what it is, if it's a love reading, that's the actual energy. So maybe you underneath it all feel that, but because of this slowdown, pause, and just back and forth of emotions, that is there, but it's being, kind of pushed to the side or covered up by all these more pressing emotions and frustration of the whole entire energy throughout this phase, or Mercury retrograde more specifically, when I'm doing the read. And that could be for both parties, or just for yourself, or for the other party. It could even, if it's not a love read, it could be, your passion for something, the Ace of Cups, passion, unconditional love, energy for something that, is your passion hobby, your passion career, your soul mission, right? Or whatever it is that you love unconditionally, you're passionate about, where you're putting your time and energy to. And even though that's the overall energy, or the energy you started out with, it's being flip-flopped with all these other, competing emotions and energies during this time because of the confusion, frustration of the pause, slow down, surrender, that's taking precedent right now. And I feel like that's basically it. Like I'm just here to confirm that for you, that this is meant to be and it's happening for you, not to you, and just to share some sympathy that this is going on for me too, and that I've been through enough of these to know that, like I said, it is happening for you, but to know that it'll make sense afterwards, right? So what doesn't make sense now, it's okay. We just have to know that it's meant to be, it's divine, it's protection, it's even better, it's teaching us, it's evolving us, right? It's probably all of those things, but it's at least some of those things. And to just trust that there's a bigger story at play, there's a bigger purpose in all of it. We're all in this together, It feels like life revolves around, just us, but as a person, everything is so serious when we think of ourselves as singular and disconnected. But the truth is, we're all walking each other home. We're all connected at the source. And what we, do, how we treat other people, what we do, how we behave, is really just how we're treating ourselves, and vice versa. So there's probably something in that too, where that's one of the lessons maybe with this slowdown, this Mercury retrograde, this pause, where we're meant to tap into that perspective more. That's probably part of it, although I do think individually, everything I said earlier applies individually, but there is that bigger lesson there, because that came through for a reason. So yeah, and the more we can do that, the more we can flow each time a Mercury retrograde comes around, or a situation, a phase like this comes around. The goal is to stay in high frequency, to still have faith, trust in God and the universe, right? That everything, even, seemingly negative situations, are actually in our best and highest good if we know how to perceive them and use them to our advantage, right? So it's an opportunity to regroup, refresh, rethink, revisit. How can you better the things that you can control, is what it comes down to. And of course that's going to be different for each one of us, but it's going, that main concept is going to be true for each one of us. And I think maybe the more we can focus on that and apply that and show God, show the universe that we're doing what we can, but we're also detaching and having faith. We're not overdoing it. We're just, okay, I get it, I get the message, so I need to change something, I need to revisit something, I need to refresh something, I need to do what I can, while whatever I was hoping was going to go forward isn't. It's going to make more go forward when the time is right, or it's going to make that thing go forward even better when the time is right, if I do what I can on my end to clean up my act, right? Whatever that is, it's going to be so different for each situation. And then lastly, under slow down, is create. So for a lot of you, that's a way to transmute the negative emotions and energies to positive throughout this phase. For a lot of you, that could be what needs revisiting and refreshing, right? Maybe you're meant to focus more on creating during this time. I would say yes, everyone's meant to focus more on creating during this time regardless, but for different reasons, right? Some of you, it's just to transmute the negative emotions and energies to positive. For some of you, it's because there's something that needs creation, that needs your attention, and that's why you're having this slow down, this pause, so that you can focus on something you've been needing to create, or, you know, need to get back to, that you had intentions on creating, or, you know, had already started but didn't finish. And right along with that is focus. Right under there was focus. So I feel like that goes along with whatever you were creating or need to create, to focus on that versus the negative. And also what's coming through with that is to focus on your bigger goals, right? So instead of focusing on the slowdown or pause, focus on your biggest goals that you would normally focus on when everything else is in order and going good, right? Like, what are your biggest goals that either needs some attention or is the perfect way to get through this? And then under there is soar and abundance. And so what I'm getting is that, you know, once this phase passes, that's what's happening. You know, back to soaring, back to abundance. And then it just keeps coming through. And then patience is under there. So it's basically just saying, you know, with some patience, the miracles are right there. Like, they're right there. It's just a phase. And if you handle it correctly with some patience, the miracles are right there. So I'm going to end it there. It probably didn't even need to be this long, but I didn't want to leave anything out. Yeah, this is just big time Mercury retrograde energy, and I feel like you guys are helping me just by listening, by me doing the read, because I'm going through this. And so there must be a bunch of you that need the same confirmation, a little pep talk, and a little positivity, a little reminder, and that's it. And we're in this together. We got this. Let's do it.